Donald Trump, and depending on your perspective, it was spent either preparing the U.S. for the challenges of the 21st century or rolling the clock back decades. President is moving forward on some of his key campaign promises around immigration. That includes building a wall along the Mexican border, deporting undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes, and cutting federal grants for sanctuary cities like Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, and more. Tonight, ABC will televise Trump's first in-depth interview since he was sworn in.
Are you going to direct U.S. funds to pay for this wall? Will American taxpayers pay for the wall?
Ultimately, it'll come out of what's happening with Mexico. We're going to be starting those negotiations relatively soon, and we will be in a form reimbursed by Mexico, which I've always said.
So they'll pay us back?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Trump has also been busy tweeting, doubling down on his unsubstantiated claims. The votes of 3 million people here illegally denied him a popular vote victory, saying, quote, "I'll be asking for a major investigation into voter fraud, including those registered to vote in 2 states, those who are illegally, and even those registered to vote who are dead, and many for a long time. Depending on results, we will strengthen up voting procedures." Yesterday, Press Secretary Sean Spicer faced tough questions about the president's claims.
Do you believe there was widespread voter fraud?
My job is not. Look,
how can he be comfortable with his win if he believes
he's very
there
comfortable
was
with his
3
win.
million votes? Maybe he didn't win.
No, he's very comfortable with his win. It's an electoral-based system. He got 306 electoral votes. 33 of 50 states voted for him. I think, look, Jeff, I've asked and answered this question twice. He believes what he believes based on the information he's provided.
Congressional members from both sides of the aisle are telling the new president he can't, in their terms, just make stuff up to fit a narrative he finds more pleasing.
This has to stop. One of 2 things need to happen quickly. He needs to share with us the information he has, or he needs to recant this. So if he doesn't recant it and he doesn't share the information, then, and we continue down this path, it will undermine his presidency.
It goes to the whole question of whether or not Donald Trump is taking this entire job as president seriously.
How are we going to sit across the table and from other countries and negotiate when you have an administration that cannot be trusted because they lie every day willingly?
Trump faced backlash from 2 of the larger sanctuary cities, New York and Chicago, where the mayors there said they'll support their immigrant populations. Governor Jerry Brown of California delivered a similar message. Here to talk more about the rollout of the Trump agenda are Jennifer Braceras, conservative columnist, former editor of the new BostonPost.com. Hey there, Jennifer.
Hi.
Good to see you.
You too.
And Warren Tolman, former Democratic candidate for governor. Warren, it's good to see you, too. Can we start on this 3 million people, illegals voted, and that's why I didn't win the popular vote? I would argue when nobody agrees with you, including people in your own party, it's borderline delusional. It was on Infowars.com. Make me not worry that when a story appears on Infowars.com next week that says, I don't know, North Korea is going to drop a nuclear bomb on Miami, that he's not going to believe it and retaliate. Why shouldn't I worry about that?
I can't make you not worry.
Are you worried?
I'm not worried. I don't understand why the president is focusing on issues that are essentially in the past and why he's not moving forward and keeping the focus on his
worried,
agenda.
Though? I mean, he says, Sean Spicer says he seriously believes something that nobody, including his own lawyers, believe, that there was this kind of voter fraud.
I think there's a question of degree. Is there voter fraud in the U.S.? Yes, there is. John Fund's written a book about it from the Wall Street Journal.
That's not the question, Jennifer.
Right.
You know
the
that.
question is whether there were enough illegal votes to sway the popular vote
and
one way or the other.
Nobody thinks there were.
Nobody thinks so.
You know, and it seems to me that Ed Markey sort of played on this. Senator Ed Markey files this bill saying that we should take away, Congress should have the power for first strike nuclear attacks. I mean, he doesn't say it, but essentially implicating, suggesting that Trump doesn't have the judgment to do it. That's grandstanding. I mean, he's never getting the votes for this thing. It's just essentially grandstanding on this issue that arose over the weekend,
Well, it's part of checks and balances. He wants to throw that out there. It's not going to go anywhere. He understands that. But, you know, for a guy who ran his campaign on lies and distortions and then comes into the White House, we thought he'd be a little bit better than that. I will say, however, in terms of some of his campaign promises, he's bringing them on, as he said he would. Imagine
but I'm so glad you said that, because the sense I'm getting from some Democrats in the last, first 5 days of this, it's sort of like, what's his name, Captain Renault? He says, I'm shocked that gambling is going on here, Rick, in Casablanca. This is, with the exception of reneging on his pledge to release his federal taxes after the alleged audit is over, he's honoring every campaign pledge day after day after day, no?
Well, he's certainly checking off a few of them, certainly, from the outset. And I give him credit for it, reminding people, look, elections have consequences.
In the words of Barack Obama.
He won, and that's what we're getting. He's doing as he said he would.
But are we getting, I mean, one of the things, I know they're relying, for example, on I argue the biggest one today, even though there are a number of them, the whole building of the wall thing, they're relying on some 2006 law that was never fully implemented that allows them to move ahead with the fence. Unless Congress appropriates the money, it doesn't happen. And last time I recall, Paul Ryan thought, the Speaker of the House thought this idea was ridiculous. So speaking of grandstanding, is this anything more than grandstanding on the part of the president?
Well, he's also backed off a little bit. Well, it could be a fence in some parts. It doesn't have to be a wall. I mean, but the bottom line is the American people voted for border security, and I have no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump will increase border security. Whether it actually takes the form of a wall from end to end, concrete all the way across, I have no idea.
Well, speaking of security, you know, today he signed this executive order, 120-day ban on Syrian refugees, 30-day ban on people coming into this country getting visas from 7 Muslim-majority countries. How does that convince countries with a significant Muslim population who we need to support our agenda in that part of the world that we are somebody who is friendly to Muslim nations? Isn't that counterproductive and then some?
Not necessarily, because nobody understands the threat greater than the leaders of those countries, right? I mean, the Saudis understand this threat.
Do their people think, are the people going to support their leaders and say, oh, it's fine, he's banning Muslims?
Do the Saudi people have to support the Saudi leaders?
Well, that's a good point.
That's not how it works over there.
Is that, you know, what's the thing is the Democrats are criticizing this too, understandably, particularly the Syrian refugee thing. Is there an actual strategy yet, other than sort of using the bullhorn to say this is a bad idea, that's a bad? Do they have a game plan to stop any of this stuff?
I think he's throwing red meat to his conservative base, and I believe that it supplies fodder for the Muslim terrorists, the radical Islamic terrorists, as Donald Trump would say, to get their videos out there and to recruit more jihadis against the United States.
They don't need fodder. They hate us.
He's giving them more.
They have fodder from the fact that women walk down the street here wearing sleeveless shirts. I mean, this isn't going to give them any more fodder than they already have. You
know, you went to law school, as we've mentioned only about 400 times here, with Representative Pompeo, now director of the CIA. The thing, he's typical of the confirmed nominees so far in this regard. General Mattis at Defense embraces NATO. His boss, the president, does not.
Right.
General Kelly from here, who's going to be head of Homeland Security, says building the wall will do nothing. It will not help at all. Obviously, the president supports this. Your friend from law school, CIA Director Pompeo, said this was an aggressive action, the Russians hacking, was an aggressive action taken by senior leadership inside of Russia. You never hear those words from the president. How is this all going to work when nominee after nominee after nominee in the security infrastructure on critical issues disagrees with the guy who's the boss? How does that work?
Well, it's a team of rivals to some extent, right? Except Donald Trump is the rival of some of his nominees.
Do you really believe that can work when they are in diametrically different?
Yes, of course, because Donald Trump is a businessman, and he's in the business of bringing senior executives together who have varying views, sorting them out, talking them through, and coming to the right decision. So he trusts his leaders, right? That's what he does. He delegates, and he has faith in the people he's appointed, all of whom in the defense apparatus are extremely competent, intelligent people at the top of their game. So
those three people got a lot of Democratic votes, and Mattis practically unanimous, by the way. But yeah, I think she's got a point. I sort of like the fact that he's not looking for yes men and women. He's appointing people who he knows on these critical issues are 180 degrees. That's a healthy thing, is it not? To allow, and actually I'd say, advance dissent within your own ranks? Isn't that a good thing?
Certainly it can be a good thing, and to certainly foster debate and dialogue, but sometimes Donald Trump has a propensity to say these are the facts irrespective of reality.
But he has people who are going to say they're not the facts. He has Pompeo who's going to say the Russians are responsible at the highest levels for doing
and
this.
So would every reputable national security expert in the world, period, the end. Except for Donald Trump, who's our commander-in-chief, maybe. But so if everyone is on one side and you're on the other side and you're not listening to them, that is a disaster waiting to happen. I believe it, and we've seen that in a number of different instances where he said, "Truth be damned."
We got to go. Jennifer, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Warren, great to see you.
My
as well.
pleasure, Jim.
Thank you so much, both of you.